That's the bit that excites me, is the idea of being able to bring some change. Not overly radical change, but changes that I think need to happen.
In September 2022, Prince William inherited an estate worth more than £1 billion. Within 2 years, one name had quietly disappeared from its payroll. No announcement, no press release, no thank you for almost 20 years of service. Just one word printed in an annual report, nil. That name belonged to Queen Camilla's younger sister. Royal watchers say that single word was never really an accounting decision. They say it was a message aimed straight past Annabelle Elliot at the woman standing behind her. And if the reports are accurate, Camilla understood it immediately, because within months, she reportedly began moving to protect the one thing left that a future king cannot simply take away. Now, before we go one step further, I need to be straight with you. A lot of what follows comes from royal biographers, unnamed palace sources, and newspaper reporting that Buckingham Palace has never confirmed or denied. I will tell you clearly which parts are documented fact and which parts are claims, because the difference genuinely matters. That the documented part on its own is remarkable: £1 billion estate, a 20-year arrangement, a sister, and one word, nil. Here is what is not in dispute. When Queen Elizabeth died and Charles became king, the Duchy of Cornwall passed to William. The duchy is one of the most powerful private estates in Britain. It funds the heir to the throne. It controls property and land stretching across Cornwall, Devon, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. Everything came with it: the land, the income, the contracts, and the payroll. On that payroll sat Annabelle Elliot. She is Camilla's younger sister. She is also, to be fair to her, a genuinely accomplished interior designer. In 2014, a national newspaper ranked her among the most influential female designers in the country. She has appeared in official royal documentaries. She has sat in the royal box at Wimbledon. She had been part of the furniture of palace life for so long that most people had simply stopped asking how she got there. Her design work for the duchy began after Charles and Camilla married in 2005. The last published figures before William took control recorded roughly £20,000 in fees and around £12,000 in furniture purchases in a single reporting year. Then came the 2024 Duchy of Cornwall annual report. No payments, nothing. The arrangement had ended without a word. The official line offered to the press was that the change was no reflection on her work, and there is a perfectly reasonable version of this story. William has spoken openly for years about wanting a smaller, leaner institution, one where being close to the crown is not the same thing as being on the payroll. Contracts end, estates modernize. That is ordinary business, but a lot of people looked at that entry and did not see ordinary business at all because of how it was done. There was no farewell. No statement acknowledging nearly 2 decades of work, no transition, no tribute, no soft landing of the kind this family usually manages for people who have been close to it for that long. This is an institution that will issue a press release when somebody's dog dies. Here it issued nothing. And the timing was surgical, not in 22 when William took over and could have blamed a general review, not in a year of headlines. It happened quietly in a document most people never open, at the precise moment when nobody was looking for it. They looked at that entry and thought about Dorset. This is where documented history stops and claims begin, so listen carefully to how I phrase this. Several royal biographers have written that during the years when Charles and Camilla's relationship was still secret, homes belonging to trusted friends and family were used for private meetings. Annabelle's country home in Dorset is named repeatedly in those accounts. None of it has ever been confirmed by the palace, and Annabelle herself has never publicly addressed it. One biographer went further, describing an evening at that house where Annabelle is said to have pushed her sister toward Charles when his mood turned dark, telling her that Diana did not compare to her. That account appears in a book. It is not confirmed. It has never been verified by anyone who was in the room, and it should be treated as exactly what it is, a claim. But claims stick, especially to a son. Because whatever was or was not happening in Dorset, this much is on the record. Diana was struggling badly during those years. She spoke about it herself publicly in her own words on national television. She described an eating disorder. She described being treated as unstable when she raised what she suspected. And she was right about what she suspected, because Charles later admitted on camera in 1994 that the marriage had not been faithful. So sit with that for a second. Diana was told she was imagining it. She was not imagining it, and the people around Charles knew she was not imagining it. Then, in 2023, Annabelle sat down for a BBC documentary about the coronation year. She was still contracted to the duchy at the time. She looked into the camera, spoke about her sister, and used one word: loyal. She said Camilla was completely loyal. She said it warmly with a straight face on national television while checks from William's estate were still arriving. Nobody has ever confirmed that William watched that interview. But if he did, you can probably guess how the word loyal landed. To understand why this cuts so deep, you have to go back to January 1993. A British newspaper published the transcript of a private phone call between Charles and Camilla. The call had been recorded 4 years earlier, in 1989, when both of them were still married to other people. The content was intimate, embarrassing, and instantly famous. The country gave it a nickname within days. William was 10 years old. He did not learn about his father's private life in a careful family conversation. He read it the same way the postman read it, the same way his classmates read it, on a front page. And the tabloid jokes were not even the worst part of that transcript. Woven through it was ordinary logistics. Whose house? Which weekend? Which friends could be relied on to say nothing? A 10-year-old boy read that his parents' marriage had an infrastructure. 4 years later, his mother was dead. Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris in August 1997, an accident, and nothing in this story changes that fact. 6 days after that, William walked behind her coffin through central London in front of the world. He was 15. He did not break. He has since said publicly that he does not think a child should ever be asked to do what he did that day. He has also never forgotten who was standing where in the years before it. Harry later wrote that the two brothers had nicknames for Camilla as boys, and they were not affectionate ones. People have dismissed those as the insults of grieving teenagers. Or maybe children are extremely good at working out who benefited from their mother's unhappiness. There is one more figure standing at the edge of this story who almost nobody talks about, and he keeps reappearing. Andrew Parker Bowles married Camilla in 1973. 800 guests, the Queen Mother attended. On paper, it was the society wedding of the year. The marriage lasted until 1995, and by the end it was, by many accounts, a marriage in name only on both sides. What makes him remarkable is what he did afterwards. He attended Charles and Camilla's wedding in 2005, he attended the coronation in 2023, and watched the woman he had been married to be crowned queen. Reports in early 2026 placed him at a military memorial alongside Camilla's children, photographed and smiling, apparently untroubled by any of it. The palace, as usual, said nothing. Think about what that does for Camilla. If any man on earth had earned the right to be publicly bitter about her, it was him. Instead, he keeps showing up, keeps smiling, keeps being photographed with her family. Commentators have argued for years that his forgiveness has been worth more to Camilla's public image than any statement her office could ever have issued. It says, without saying it, that the man with the biggest grievance let it go, so perhaps everybody else should too. There is also a long circulated story about Charles behaving outrageously toward Camilla in front of guests at a party while Andrew was present. It appears in books. It has never been confirmed by anyone involved, and I am not going to describe it as fact because it is not. What is fact is that Andrew is still there, still visible. Still, at his age, walking into rooms with the royal family and dragging 40 years of history in behind him, William is patient, he is controlled. He has carried this quietly for decades. Lauren's one exception, and everyone who covers this family knows what it is, Kate. In his memoir, Harry described a moment when William confronted their father about press stories he believed had come from Camilla's side, and quoted his brother saying that they had done it to him for the last time. Harry also described William asking Charles directly how he could let this be done to his own sons. Charles's camp has never accepted that account, and remember, it is one brother's version of a private conversation. Then came the state visit to Windsor in September 2025. The family lined up to greet the American president and First Lady. William and Kate went first, and Kate fell into easy conversation with Melania Trump. When Camilla arrived, Kate stepped aside. That is all that visibly happened. A gesture, a step back, a few seconds of footage. The internet turned it into a war. Body language commentators, tabloid sources, and royal columnists spent weeks arguing over whether Kate had been dismissed or had simply moved politely to make room. Sources briefed the papers that William had been unimpressed. Other sources said there was nothing in it at all. Nobody involved has confirmed any of it, and honestly, a few seconds of video is thin evidence for a feud. But here is the part that is harder to explain away. Commentators noticed that William's greeting to Camilla that day was brief, warm enough, but brief. In a family where a bowed head is a formal acknowledgement of rank, brevity gets noticed. One royal author has said publicly that William does not hate Camilla, he tolerates her. That is the word, not respects, not resents, tolerates. And the same author has claimed that Camilla has always been slightly wary of William. She was wary of him when he was a teenager with no power at all. He is not a teenager now. He controls the estate, he controls the payroll, and in time he will control every pound, every invitation, and every title that keeps a queen consort in the position she spent 30 years reaching. Camilla has spent her whole life being underestimated by people who thought she was not clever enough to survive them. She outlasted every single one of them. William never underestimated her once. In early 2026, a report surfaced that made royal watchers read it twice. Camilla is said to have arranged for Ray Mill House, her private estate in Wiltshire, to be secured for her children Tom and Laura. Ray Mill is not a royal property. She bought it herself in 1996 with money from her divorce settlement. She has called it her sanctuary. She grows vegetables there. It is the one address in her life that has never belonged to the institution. This report has not been confirmed by the palace, and there is a completely boring explanation available. Camilla is in her late 70s. The king has been treated for cancer. Sorting out property for your children in those circumstances is what sensible people do. But look at the timing. Camilla does not receive a separate personal income from the state. Her position is funded through the institution, and the institution answers to the monarch. When William becomes king, that flow of money and access and invitation belongs to him. He has said repeatedly and publicly that he wants a smaller operation with fewer people benefiting from proximity to the crown. Tom and Laura Parker Bowles have never been working royals. They never claimed to be. But closeness to a crown opens doors that ordinary people never see, and William has already shown, with one word in one annual report, exactly how quietly he is willing to close a door. Nil. If reports about Ray Mill are accurate, Camilla has done the only rational thing available to her. She has put the one place that is genuinely hers somewhere a future king cannot reach. Here is where it actually stands, stripped of the drama. Camilla won the long game. She got the marriage, she got the title. She got the crown placed on her head against public resistance and against the memory of a woman the country adored. That is not speculation. That happened. And now the boy who read about his parents' marriage in a newspaper at 10 years old and walked behind his mother's coffin at 15 holds the estate, the payroll, and eventually the throne. He is not being loud about it. He has not given an interview. He has not briefed the press. He printed one word in an annual report and let everybody work out the rest. So tell me honestly in the comments, because I read them. Was ending that contract a king in waiting, cleaning up an institution that badly needed cleaning up? Or was it something far more personal, finally allowed to happen? I genuinely want to know which one you think it is.